Today on Locked On Rockies, Ezequiel Tovar shines in the World Baseball Classic finale. Plus, an ESPN feature gives an inside look at why Paul DePodesta thinks he's up for the challenge of fixing the Colorado Rockies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 19th day of March in the year 2026. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, you're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. Today, we're going to talk about Tovar in the World Baseball Classic finale, plus a long feature. We're not going to get to everything, but there's a lot to take away from an ESPN feature on Paul DePodesta. We'll talk about that, plus the Rockies' comeback win against Cincinnati as they continue to sharpen up before opening day. Just a mere week away. I believe the Rockies are on Friday, though, but, basically there. Today's episode is brought to you by MLB The Show 26. Visit MLBThe.show/locked-on and use code locked-on to get an unlock pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. I am, of course, Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you this daily Colorado Rockies talk, as I have for over 6 seasons now. That means hundreds of episodes with you, the Rockies fans, going through the ups, the downs, and everything in between of Rockies baseball. All right, let's start with just a quick spring training recap for the Rockies here as they come back and win, taking on the Reds here with a massive 6-run, eighth inning after being down pretty much the whole game and down big pretty much throughout the whole game. A little bit of a sloppy play from the Reds helped out, but the Rockies also were able to, do something that we want them to see during the season. Sometimes it's just about putting the ball in play. Sometimes you just got to get it out there and see what happens, because it's not like in the comeback inning the Rockies had a big home run or something that really did a bunch of significant damage. There was big moments where they got away with just slapping the ball in the infield, a couple of booted balls, or hit hard enough for them to leg it out and make a play was what they needed to do. And when it comes to 162 regular season ball games, that's how you're going to win a couple. That's how you should win a couple. That's how good teams will win a couple. And it's a little bit of luck there too, right? The 2 costly errors with, I believe that was after 1 out, or maybe even with 2 outs in the ball in the inning there. Everything would have been different if the Major League Baseball player doesn't just goof up, which happens often. Errors happen and things get weird, but that simple little bit of why it's important to not strike out double digit, 12, 13, 14 times a game is because you're going to be able to create opportunities and create situations like this, where you're able to have situations where you can go out there and do some, just kind of, just bloop in a couple of runs basically. So, and good to see the Rockies staying in composure there as well and getting a big walk in that inning, and just staying in it, staying in the ball game and getting themselves a nice comeback victory there. Some of the stuff that's obviously a little bit worrisome here. Another starting pitcher here with 4 earned runs for Quintana there. 4 innings worth of work, 7 hits, had a couple of strikeouts there, no walks. But like I said, the 4 earned runs is just that it's the continued trend of starters having that high earned run amount, and we'll see how it irons out. It's just the thing that like we talked about yesterday, Rockies starters have not necessarily really put a bunch of being the most criticized group going into 2026, even though most of the rotation is going to be different this year, being the area that the Rockies struggled with the most, and then for it to open up, for it to go so far in spring like this, it doesn't necessarily make you feel a ton of confidence, but it all goes down to, I think part of it does go down back to the whole dialing in, the Lorenzen approach of dialing in on certain things, working on specific things, keeping with certain things longer than you would in a regular season. But I'd really like to see over the conclusion, the final bit of work that everyone gets here in spring training. I'd like to see things. I just would like to see tight starts from the Rocky starters there, because they are definitely still in that prove it territory. I don't think that when we've had moments in spring training from guys, TJ Rumfield, for example, or guys that have been excited, Willie Castro, who's had a strong spring, and some good performance in the World Baseball Classic as well, where you're like, hey, look at that, like these acquisitions and these new faces, that's an encouraging, that's building up a little bit and more encouraging to see than a historically awful starting rotation going into the starting off the year. Spring training, I know, but starting off the year, giving up a bunch of runs there. And it seems like it feels like it's been that way throughout spring training. It's been a lot of runs allowed for the Rockies here throughout spring training. The Mariners scoring 10. I mean, it's been very often that the Rockies have been in games where they have allowed over 5 runs to their opposition here. Just a quick scroll through everything. It's basically the vast majority here out of their spring training games that they haven't allowed 5 or more runs here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's it. So 8 of them. So it's a little less than I thought. So, but it just has felt that way, I think, with some of these performances. But like I said, I'm not fully putting the panic mode on the starting rotation. I'm not doubting the fully out on the acquisitions that the Rockies made. It just kind of goes back to my continuation. It just goes back to my point from yesterday, where it's not the veteran guys that I'm worried about as much as I am worried about that 5th spot. I kind of expect a Jose Quintana line to have 4 runs. And obviously, hopefully it's not 4 runs in 4 innings and it's more like a 6, 5 and a third or something like that, going a little bit deeper in the ball game. But I feel like I've kind of put myself in I don't expect the Rocky starters to have the lowest ERA in the league, or be a team that doesn't give up or don't give up a decent amount of runs. I just want it to be contained. And once for me, obviously 5 runs is usually that threshold, right? So it's above that. But even when it gets to like 4, even when it rounds to 4, 3 still seems manageable. 3 is a couple of base hits and a home run. That can happen. 4, it just seems like, especially with the Rockies offense last year, that it just seems like that's when things can start feeling out of hand early. That's when it feels like easy to check out as a fan early in the game of like, oh boy, here we go. So I'd like to see, like I said, as I mentioned before, I'd like to see the Rockies starts get a little bit tightened up there and go and just that's my last main focus, because I think things are starting to fall into place here for most of the position battles here. But one thing to keep in mind, Tyler Freeman scratched before the game. The back issue came up again. We'll have to see how long that is. Maybe it's a precautionary thing. It's just a 1-game thing, but something to keep an eye out as the Rockies, looking to have that utility depth in the lineup and somebody that was having a pretty decent spring there. All right, let's take a break here, and then this ESPN feature, there's a lot in it. So I just want to read some quotes and kind of look into the background. Especially, I thought this was an interesting thing of looking into the background of DePodesta when he was with the Browns and coming back to baseball, because I think that the hesitation, as much as we've been, feeling good, feeling like we're in a better spot and everything, I think it's important that this piece highlights this, and it's important for us to talk about it because that is his last body of work. And it was far, far from successful, and there were plenty of issues with that as well. So I want to read that and some other quotes from DePodesta about working with the Rockies and taking over the Rockies here. All that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that will help make this show possible, and that includes Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps. Trading involved insignificant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. We are also brought to you by Gametime. Gametime's got you covered with opening day right around the corner. The fresh start, the big expectations. If you're a Rockies fan, this is the time of hope, right? So why not get yourself down there to Denver on a beautiful, fingers crossed, opening day for the Rockies here. And Gametime's going to help you get there because you're not going to have to worry about those long queues, surprise fees, and the prices jumping at checkout. Gametime's got you covered because it's an amazing ticket experience, and it's going to help you in just a few taps. The Gametime guarantee means you get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. What you see is what you pay, period. And my favorite thing, this is the triple threat of Gametime: authentic tickets, upfront pricing, panoramic seat view of your seat. So not only are you getting a great deal and the price up front, you know exactly what your seat is going to look like, so you know exactly what to expect when you get to the ballpark. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Back at it here for segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Hey, check out our Everydayer Club to get ad-free audio of the show. And you can get access to the Everydayer Club Discord server where we're talking rocks, everyone's talking sports, and we got a bracket challenge going on for you guys. Join the Everydayer Club now with code March and get your first month of the Everydayer Club free. If you sign up before the NCAA tournament tips off today and Friday, you can compete against me in our men's and women's bracket pools on Discord. The winner in each will get $100 in Locked On merch, and the rest of us can commiserate in the members only chat as our brackets blow up, which is inevitable for me. And as a member of the club, you get ad-free versions of Locked On Rockies. Again, it's all free for a month with code March at lockedonrockies.supercast.com. All right. Over on ESPN, there's a long feature by Alden Gonzalez here, and it's titled Why Paul DePodesta Thinks He Can Fix the Rockies. And it dives into a lot of stuff. It dives into his background. It dives into the journey here and comments and thoughts and why he took on this job. So I want to just read a little bit about this here. DePodesta ended a decade-long run with the NFL's Cleveland Browns to become the Rockies' president of baseball operations in early November, and has spent the past 4 months obsessing over ways to succeed at mile-high altitude. Building out an army of pitching coaches, the type that can provide as much individualized training as possible, is one of them. Empowering innovation, largely by assembling a more robust analytics department, is another. Just as important, he believes, is a change in mindset. DePodesta wants the Rockies to view playing baseball at altitude as an advantage, not a hindrance. Everything else should flow off of that. We need to embrace this, DePodesta said. This is who we are. And I know this is just the first opening thing, but this is fundamentally true. There is no fixing the Colorado Rockies without approaching them in a creative and a unique way and really looking at their home and road splits, the home atmosphere, the home environment. That all it's a crutch that is used. Baseball at altitude. It's an easy crutch to use to just say altitude, and it is certainly annoying. But you cannot ignore the fact that it is different here. So this is something that, whether it be DePodesta or anyone, you have to look at this as altitude, and Coors Field has to be your strength. It has to be a place that is so terrible for other teams to come in and play that it can help carry you, as we have seen historically for the Rockies. The Rockies being great at home has kept them relevant in seasons compared to what we've seen the last 3 years where it's just bad all the way around. So this is something you cannot ignore you cannot ignore this challenge, because the challenge of fixing the Rockies is not just baseball at altitude. It's baseball with this ownership. It's baseball with this market. It's there are a ton of layers that factor into it, but the unique atmosphere and environment that you play your baseball in is something, and that's why it takes these people that look at the game at the numbers level, at this deep of a level. That's why you need to build these teams of people. That's why you need to approach and approach your coaching staffs and your organization by looking at every little area, at the margins, and looking at every last little place that you can to find places where you can be successful. So I know it's something we talked about before, but I think that's just something important here to bring up. And I'm going to skip a little bit forward here and just hear what Kyle Freeland says. Fair or not, we needed a change, Kyle Freeland said. We needed to go in a new direction. So I wanted to just fast forward, as this piece is it talks about his failures and successes with the A's, and then moving on through baseball is with the Padres and the Mets. But I want to fast forward a little bit here to his time in Cleveland, just because I think it's important to look at why did he leave, and the realities of, as much as the Rockies players and coaching staff and everything are in prove-it mode, DePodesta has to as well. I have, as much as I've been encouraged by things that have changed, which is great. I am not ignoring the fact that the Cleveland Browns were quite a bit of a mess, and his role in that was not a popular one. And so let's just dive in here. After his departure from the Dodgers, longtime executive Sandy Alverson brought DePodesta to the Padres and then to the Mets. Over a 10-year stretch from 2006 to 2015, DePodesta began to think bigger. He built out analytics departments, shaped decision-making processes, and focused on creating synergy through various departments. The Browns hired him to do just that, but the on-field success did not follow. In DePodesta's 9 full seasons in Cleveland, the Browns win a combined 54-93-1. And spent a good portion of that time being ridiculed for the trade and subsequent extension of scandal-plagued quarterback Deshaun Watson. They made the playoffs twice, but often people wondered what DePodesta's job actually constituted. He worked from San Diego, rarely gave interviews, and reports suggested he was at times overruled on key hiring decisions and at odds with his GMs, specifically John Dorsey. DePodesta countered that he felt empowered in Cleveland, adding he wouldn't give any credence to reports suggesting otherwise. He said he's proud of what he helped build structurally, but regretful that the Browns could not sustain the momentum of 11-win seasons in 2020 and 2023. The margins of the NFL still alarm him. Every game, DePodesta believes, comes down to 6 to 8 plays. So that's, I mean, again, of course, you're going to brush that off, but that's what I mean. We might have seen a change where we're actually seeing the interviews. He has been a little bit upfront. We have heard a lot from DePodesta this offseason, but it's also this is that honeymoon phase. This is the new thing phase. We haven't seen a season under DePodesta yet. We haven't seen what Rockies baseball officially looks like in the regular season here. So while we're evaluating, this year, as much as we're evaluating young guys and evaluating a new coaching staff and all this stuff, we're evaluating DePodesta as well. It's been a lot of saying the right things. It's been a lot of things moving in the right direction. That's encouraging, but I can't ignore what the Cleveland Browns were and the decisions that they made. So he says he missed the he struggled with the narrowness of NFL. He missed the sample sizes of baseball, but he missed player development the most. I've always felt that even when the major league team isn't having the best year, every night during the summer, someone somewhere did something well, where when your head hits the pillow, you can be like, okay, our third round pick in A-ball went 5 innings, gave up 2 hits, punched out 8, and I'm happy about that, DePodesta said. Football, you go out and you get beat 31-10, and there's not a person in the building on Monday who's saying, well, the linebackers played well. I'm an optimist by nature. I actually do like that philosophy of that is a good, that's understanding your organization. That's looking at things top to bottom. And I do think that's a good way to look at baseball, especially in an executive position like his. I'm an optimist by nature. So in baseball, to have things you can grab onto as you're building successes that you can be happy about, both individual and team, when it's not just about the major league team all the time, I miss those things. So yeah, it highlights the factors. He talks about the elevation being one of the more interesting challenges. So I'm glad he's interested in that. But I wanted to go and just read a couple of the things that's been different here about the Rockies changes here, because this piece has so much more into it. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff going into how he hired his coaching staff, who he was looking for, a lot of working with Kyle Freeland, it seems like, as well. But one of the things I just wanted to talk about is because of really trying to change. If the analytics drive him this much, this has to be something that they really focus on and change. And I think this really highlights why we are seeing tangible evidence of the changes that he's implementing. The Rockies have been widely considered among the most repressive organizations in using modern data, not just in what they possess, but in how they incorporate it. They insist that's changing. They recently posted 3 prominent job openings for their research and development department and brought in longtime executive, current assistant GM Ian Levine to oversee it. Their spring training facility is equipped with a pitching lab, which a lot of teams still don't possess. They previously owned a Trackjic pitching machine too, and have since purchased another. They need more, certainly. Developing their own internal defensive metrics would be a good start, but they also need to learn how to optimize what they have and make it actionable. So I just think that's a good thing of, a small example of, hey, they are embracing and using the tech and it's here now, right? It's happening at this spring training camp. So there's a lot more. This is a ESPN piece. You can go and check it out there. Like I said, there's a lot more in this one. We could get to more of the action, I'm sure, but go read it and check it out there. Alden Gonzalez on ESPN there. Writing the piece. All right, we're going to take a break, read your comments, and wrap up the show for today. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes MLB The Show 2026. This week's MLB Top 100 highlight is brought to you by MLB The Show 26, the latest from the beloved video game franchise. Each week, we're highlighting the stars of MLB's Top 100 players list, the elite names you'll be controlling, building around, and going head-to-head with in MLB The Show. And let's talk about a guy that we are all familiar with, Fernando Tatis Jr. This is a guy that is electric. It's a guy that, we've seen how important he is to the Padres. And it's a guy that I think is looking to really stake his claim as one of the top players in baseball. He hit number 16 on our top 100 list. It sounds like he'd be a perfect addition to your squad in franchise mode. You saw it at the World Baseball Classic. You've seen the swings. How many big home runs have Tatis and the Padres hit against the Rockies? If you are a Padres fan, this is the guy you can build your franchise around. And if you're a Rockies fan, maybe if you're building your dream team, he might be that big bat you're looking for. And in the show, you can do exactly that. Plus, you can check out the World Baseball Classic. If you had a favorite team, you can use those World Baseball Classic teams and check them out there. Plus, my favorite thing, the road to the show. Are you going to join Fernando Tatis on your road to the show, to being one of the top 100 players in baseball? You can see it for yourself in MLB The Show 26. This week's MLB Top 100 highlight is presented by MLB The Show 26, where you can play, manage, and build with your favorite players and teams. If you love talking baseball, you'll love playing it even more. Visit MLBThe.show/LockedOn and use code LOCKEDON to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Internet connection is required. Available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and Nintendo Switch, rated E for everyone. We are also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel's got you covered here with all the action here in March. I'm sure it's he. I was going to say, you can see the West Coast shootouts, the early tip-offs as the action is underway. Yes, we have it. It starts. It's here. The madness. It all begins. Who do you think is going to pull off the upsets? Well, if you got a hunch, get a bigger potential payout at FanDuel with the college basketball parlay profit boost. Mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up that potential payout. Plus, you can take a look at some of those MLB futures if you're feeling like going after the Rockies over/under on the win total. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Locked On Rockies here, back with you all. Segment number 3. Forgot we got so hooked on some of the other stuff that Ezequiel Tovar, Antonio Senzatella, World Baseball Classic champions, and not just that, Ezequiel Tovar named to the all-tournament team as he had 2 hits in the finale, and he was one of the best players in the World Baseball Classic, plain and simple. This was a guy that had he batted 500 in the tournament. He flashed the leather, and now he was a champion. What an amazing moment for that squad, and so cool to just see him and Senza be able to celebrate that moment and see all those guys get to celebrate that moment here. Here's from Patrick Lyons on Twitter. After leading the world champions in OPS at 1.147, Venezuela's Ezequiel Tovar has been named to the WBC All-Tournament team. Tovar, 23, becomes the first to be honored while a member of the Colorado Rockies. Amazing stuff. And just Tovar was big enough for the moment. The moment was not too big for him. It wasn't perfect. Strikeout there, I believe, but 2 singles, 2 for 4 in the game. Crazy OPS, and the nation, the world, got to see that the Rockies have a special shortstop. And for Senzatella, I know he didn't get a lot of action there, and it was, but hey, he got to celebrate that moment as well. And we'll see what happens next for those two as they get to enjoy and celebrate a little bit before heading back into the mix here for the Rockies. Quite a big mix up to go from that level of baseball back to the Rockies here. Let's finish up here with just a couple of comments. Jordan says, if you have 3 options, you have no good options. Just roll with Feltner as Senza. I prefer not to see Senza, but Feltner and Dollander didn't step up. Dollander needs to be in AAA. The question is, do you believe in Feltner enough to just try it and see how it goes? That's what I would do. Sends in the bullpen to start and a break glass of emergency type of pitcher. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. Vibes at 20th and Blake for the back of the rotation. Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't know if you're necessarily going to have the options. That's why Senza as a bullpen piece is interesting, because I don't think he can bounce back and forth and give you a little bit more of that depth here. there. Luke says, sup, Paul, thanks for the daily content. McCarthy hitting leadoff and will be looking to steal second quickly, causing chaos on the base path. If he manages to swipe second, even in the first 2 pitches, we could be looking at the hitter down 0-2 and needing to defend the plate. With 99 speed on second base and the hitter down 0-2, do you have thoughts about the handedness of the hitter? Considering the majority of hit spray charts, are we in a significantly better spot with the lefty at the dish versus a righty? Lefty would have a better chance of advancing the runner with the ball in play, correct? And I think, yeah, it's spray charts, numbers, by the books, absolutely. And I think that's where, when Schaefer has talked about having the depth and having the options, I think he's going to be looking at the game exactly like that. I think there are going to be situations like I don't know if they'll be doing a lot of drastic changes in the 4th, or the 5th, where I feel like Schaefer kind of said in his example. But I think that's why the Rockies want so many unique utility options that also can either, they have had some switch hitters or guys that they can have at least more, a different amount of different types of bats in the lineup. I can't remember if it was last year. I believe it was the bullpen where they were all one arm. You need to have that mix no matter what. And I think that while the handedness is it certainly plays a factor, and it is something to look at in an advanced level, I do think good managing, though, is you got to have a little bit of gut in there too. Like, it depends who it is. It depends on the stage of the game. I'm not taking Hunter Goodman out or Ezequiel Tovar out, right? Or if Jordan Beck's on a heater, right? Like, I think you have to kind of go with the flow of the game. But I think that's why the Rockies want so many guys that can play multiple positions, so many utility players, and why they made some of the signings that they made is so they can look at game situations like this, where they can say, all right, let's bring in the lefty here. We know that this guy's hitting righties better, because I think I think just as much as the handedness would be important, though, is the splits that and the numbers and the data that you have on that pitcher. What are those pitchers' splits? If the pitcher struggles and they just brought him in, so they can't change him out. If he struggles against lefties, then go with the right matchups there. But I think it'll be a mix of things, but I think Schaefer is going to look at the game like that. And hopefully he has the options to be able to make decisions there to maximize and win in the margins like that. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB with the Back to the Bullpen podcast on those feeds as well. We also got you covered with Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, and Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. And until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.